Okay, great. I'm really happy you guys all here. So some of you, as you said, met me in person, most of you, and then hearing what you shared and why we are all here. It's um, it's that it's how to relate better with ourselves and with our triggers. And for me, for many years, I had no idea about any triggers, anything. I always thought, it's like other people and all this stuff. And when I actually learn, and specifically through compassionate inquiry, I learned the most how the trigger worked. I was really, I have to mute someone. Sorry. So it's no, okay. I was really surprised, how everything that happens in me, it's about me. Like really any trigger that is out there, it's actually about me. And it goes to the point that eventually you're really aware of that because you've done a lot of processes that show you all the time, this is your trigger. And it's not about the fact that the situation is okay, that somebody's behavior is okay, but it's about my reaction. Because if somebody does something to me and I think that is not okay and this is wrong, I can still think that and I can still adjust myself and my response to it without being triggered, actually, right? And ideally, it's that's what we want, but that doesn't always happen. And I think the biggest healing for me is the understanding that it's also okay to react, but it's what happens after. This is the whole big thing, what happens after. Because what happens after, usually when we are triggered, it's two things happen. So first we have emotional reaction. Maybe we reacted to this, overreacted. I mean, we never overreact really, but maybe we reacted in this situation we didn't like, right? So we said something, or we didn't say something, and we've noticed, oh, I supposed to say something and I didn't, or this person again crossed my boundaries, or I crossed somebody's boundaries and I didn't know how to behave, right? So we have post factum understanding with more awareness that we have right now, all of you. We have this understanding that I didn't respond in the situation, I reacted, whether by withdrawing from the situation, as you guys say, like avoiding, which that was my pattern and still is sometimes. It's avoiding, so disconnecting from the situation, or in a sense, attacking, which is in a sense also disconnecting internally, but protecting ourselves by attack, right? And then what happens, it's not even that reaction by the withdrawal of the fight, it's what happens after that um, we look back at the situation, and what happens then, the shame comes, and the shame is not always very present, sometimes it's in the background, but the shame comes that tells us, oh, something is wrong with you because you didn't respond correctly to the situation. You again either attacked someone or withdrew yourself or avoided certain things, and that dialogue starts to blame ourselves that something is wrong with me, that the whole situation happened this way. So the work goes, it always actually starts in that point, because when we process the trigger, it's usually post factum. Sometimes we have stuff to process the trigger actually when it's happening, but most of the time it's after. And then in that processing of the trigger, the most important thing is the relationship with ourselves. This is number one. This is number one from now to the end of your life. It's all about how we relate to ourselves and then to others, but first of all to ourselves. Because if I'm starting to understand how my triggers work, how everything inside of me work, how the patterns work inside of me, uh, I can have more compassion to myself, and I stop the shame patterns, because the reason we are unhappy in life, it's shame that tells me I should have different life than I have. I should have different relationship than I have. I should be different than I am, period. And this is like a imprint, a blueprint that is behind everything. Like our personality is a shame-based personality. Everybody has shame-based personality because it starts from like, I'm not good enough somewhere. I'm not, something is wrong with me somewhere, the way I respond or I don't. So that is the pattern that happens for everybody once we are triggered as well. So it comes in the moment we are triggered because it comes with the emotion, and it comes right after, right? As often we are not, or sometimes we are very aware because there is voice in our head saying something is wrong with you. But most of the time we are not aware because first of all, it's the strong reaction. So it's either anger or fear or sadness. So we are not aware there is shame underneath, but underneath all of these emotions, there is shame that something was wrong with me. That's why all of this happened. Whether something is wrong with me, that's why somebody crossed my boundaries and I didn't react, or something is wrong with me, that's why I was fighting with this person instead of like being calm and like zen, right? So it always has that component of shame, and healing that shame, it's number one that's gonna set us free. Like there is no, like from my understanding, and I've been on this journey for a very long time in very dark places, my dark places, life dark places, I understood that the freedom lies in that relationship with shame, because the shame is surfacing. uh, the more of this work you do, the more you can see that shame and you can feel it. At the beginning, it might be very subconscious, like I don't see it. No, I'm just angry. This is that person, not me. Or no, there is no shame. I'm just really angry. But behind all of these emotions, there is that imprint that I'm not good enough, or I should be different, or something is wrong with me, or I'm a bad person. I didn't act perfectly, right? So who doesn't act perfectly? Somebody who's not good enough, or somebody who has some flaws. So it's always connected with that internal belief that I'm not good enough and something is wrong with me. And if we get into that belief and we start seeing when it surfaces in our daily life, this is like number one step to first get into that shame that is underneath these emotions and understand it better. And once we understand how it works and we get to it, it really starts losing the grip on us, right? Eventually, I understood in my life that it's not, I used to believe actually that you cannot change the beliefs because the parts that we have, and we have many different parts, they come from the past. And when the trigger happens, what happens, it's the emotional reaction from the past, from where up to age of 12, all our emotional reactions were developed, actually up until age of 7, but sometimes things are also happening a little bit later. So trigger just moves us to the past, right? And we react. And all these parts, they have emotion, and that emotion contains a belief that is self-limiting belief. And I always thought for many years that I cannot change these beliefs because the parts carry these beliefs. So whenever I get triggered, the belief surfaces, right? I'm not good enough, or I didn't do it right. It's about me and all this stuff. And that really how it works. And in the process, for I think all of you, most of you did the process, but we will do it again today. You can see that this is how it is connected. However, what happened after doing so many of these processes and noticing when the shame is arising, when the trigger is arising, trigger connects me with shame, I stop believing these thoughts. So the thoughts are still happening. I just don't believe because I know they're not true. And that changed everything in my life. The fact that yes, maybe I cannot change beliefs of these parts that were seven and all this stuff, but I really don't believe in it at all. So when the belief appears, oh, you said the stupid thing to that person, it immediately moves away because I don't believe something is wrong with me. I mean, not uh maybe I don't actually anymore, but like what I'm trying to say, it's like the beliefs are happening sometimes because I see the mind is surfacing the beliefs connected with the emotion, but I just don't believe in it anymore. So it's the relationship to these beliefs changed in my life, and it changed through this work, because the more of this work we do, the more we come back to our past and we see that that was never true. So when this belief that I was seven and I thought something is wrong with me because my mom was incapable of taking care of me the way I needed, when this belief surfaces right now when I'm 46, I know it's not true. I don't even have to do the process anymore, right? But of course, I've done thousands of the processes. But eventually, what I'm trying to tell you, and some of you said you like the work and you like my work and you like my presence, is not it's not actually me. It's the work that I've done. So somebody also taught me this, and I find it really, really it's like a diamond in therapy. Like I have done so many things in my life, really many. And I've noticed the only thing that actually brings transformation is to be with your own pain and understand the beliefs behind. And there is nothing more, because at the end of the day, uh, two things are happening in us. There are thoughts in the head and there are sensations in the body that we don't want to feel. We don't want to feel the sensations because we have parts from the past, very young parts that are 5, 3, 1 year old, that believe I cannot feel that because it's too much for me. And obviously for a small child that is really tiny and big emotion happens and there is no adult to regulate that emotion, for that child, yeah, it's too big. But for somebody who's 30, 40, 50, there is that capacity can be learned. And then when the unpleasant emotion or unpleasant sensation is surfacing, I'm no longer afraid of that. And I'm learning slowly, with step by step, that I can be with it. And these sensations are uh, how to say, like, they always connected with some thoughts. So I have thoughts in my head and I think this is reality. Oh, this is reality about the situation, this and that, whatever. Everybody has their own problem, right? Some people are in the relationship they don't want to be. Some people are don't have the business the way they would like. Some other people are single, right? And then the thought arises and tells you like, oh, this is the reality, and the right reality is to have things different than you have, because mind always question the reality. And then we have that thought, oh yeah, I shouldn't be single, at my age or whatever, or I should not be with this person. And then we have sensations in the body, and then we start suffering because we think this is the reality, and I don't the reality should be different so I can stop my suffering. But essentially, when we are able to stay with our sensations, the thoughts dissipate. And then we can see, well, actually, what I'm looking outside of myself, it's here. And it's universal truth for everyone, right? So to get to that point, we need to understand how the process works, how the emotions are connected with the thought and the belief. And this is something I would like you, if you maybe don't remember many things from this uh, webinar or this class, this workshop, one thing that I would like you to remember: every time when you have emotional reaction, check what are the thoughts connected to it, because there's it's always together, you know. We are not afraid of something unless there is anxiety in the body, right? We are not uh, angry at someone unless there is activation in the body, and I have thought about the story about somebody did to me, right? And as long as this story is fueling the sensation in the body, I'm in the story, right? About somebody did something to me and this person should be not doing that and why I didn't react. And the more we are in the story in our head, the more we are in the story, and we cannot escape because the escape is in the body. And most of us uh, were conditioned or had childhoods in which you couldn't process your emotions. So we learn how to be in the mind. I was a very analytical person for a very long time in my life, and I was always in my head, and I read things, study, analyze. It brought me nowhere in terms of like emotional freedom. Yes, it gives you information, and we need that education as well. But in terms of like real light transformations, unless we tapped into our pain, uh, yeah, there is no other way. Like there is really no other way. Any other way that we're gonna use in our life. Oh, my lamp is not working anymore. Uh, any other way that we're trying to avoid to feel pain will eventually, what happens, the more we avoid the pain, it doesn't mean the pain is not there and it's disappearing and then I'm very good at avoiding, so I'm winning at life. The pain is still there. So we either face the pain at our pace and capacity, and then we can free a lot of constraints in our body, including health and life situation patterns. What else is there? Relationship attachment patterns, right? So the more we free the body and we're able to be and uh, create capacity for it, the less we depend on the circumstances. And that's freedom, essentially, because we cannot control life ever. Life will always happen the way it wants to happen. But what we can is to grow that emotional capacity to be able to navigate, not with the pain that is suppressed and then I'm like a robot in a sense, and wherever it directs me I go, and I put myself into toxic relationships, or I avoid all the time difficult conversations, or uh, moving forward in life, whatever that is. It's always connected with uh, the body sensations I don't want to feel. And we grow this capacity slowly. So without further ado, because I don't want to talk too long about theory, I would like to invite you to your body, and everybody, um, if you know how to connect with your body, then you do that. If you don't, we start from like really sensing where is my body in contact with something, because that's how we start connecting to uh, ourselves through looking for connection. And taking a couple deep breaths to your stomach, to your diaphragm. And see if there is um, that space in you that you can actually feel a little bit of these sensations in yourself. The mind always believes, no, I can't, it's uncomfortable, I don't want to, later. Um, there are always so many things to think about, but the more we move in, the better it gets. Imagine that there is possibility that you can be with any sensation that arises. How would that change your life? Like what kind of decision you could make, or because essentially it's always about that. I don't want to take a decision because I'm afraid of the sensation in the body. I don't want to tell something to someone because I'm afraid of what's gonna be present in my body. Or sometimes we say, I'm afraid of how they will react, but essentially I'm afraid how I would react to how they reacted, right? So we are always not afraid, maybe that's not the right word, but we are always really navigating to away from these sensations. And it's not because something is wrong with us, it's because we have these patterns, we have these protective parts, these coping mechanisms that did their job very well when we are 7 and 12. They really, really saved us from a lot of, like, they help us to survive, basically. We wouldn't be able to survive if we didn't have these mechanisms. But now it's 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. So perhaps we do have capacity to be with whatever sensation is present in our body. And it starts from like slow, small sensations that are uncomfortable. And see what is present right now for you. And see what voices are showing up in your head. Sometimes the mind is also, I know from my own experience, is always looking for like other ways. I've looked for so many different ways. Uh, but right now I know there is no other way. There is only that way. Can I be with my sensations, with my emotions? And what I actually wanted to say, the mind gets bored. So uh, it's like, yeah, maybe there is some other books I can read, or maybe there are some other uh, approaches I can try, or maybe some other practices I can do. I mean, it's all good, but essentially, this it's the only practice there is. Can I be with myself? And being with myself is being with my thoughts in the head and the sensations in the body. And there is no, I mean, there are practices that help you escape that, but they will not get you anywhere really. And now I think what came to me to do this a little bit differently, because most of you went through the process with me. But what comes to my mind that can be very supportive, like now to think of like what emotion and sensations uh, I'm good at avoiding. Like what are the emotions I don't want to feel? What are the sensations that I'm avoiding to feel? So when you guys talk at the beginning about your triggers or difficulties, whether in relationships or lack them off, or triggers that happen that I don't know how to be with them, what is the emotion or sensation in my body? So you can think of these triggers right now, whether those are triggers that trigger you in the relationship with other people, mostly is about that. Or if those of you that were talking about the emotional patterns and attachment patterns in relationships, if you think about this trigger, so what is it exactly? Is it uh, that we get ourselves to certain relationships, or is it that we cannot set the boundary, or is it that we become people pleasers because we want other people to like us? Whichever is the pattern that you can detect that is in you, you can focus on it right now. So it goes both ways. Either what am I looking for to feel? For example, if I go into the relationship, what am I looking for? What do I want? What what do I want to fulfill in myself when I'm thinking about romantic relationship? Or if we have other triggers, what am I what I'm avoiding to feel? So in terms of relationships that we have, let's say we put ourselves to wrong relationships, let's say, and then we struggle because we want to be with someone but we don't know how, or maybe we single. What are we looking for to fulfill in a relationship? What is the inner necessity? And these people that struggle with uh, different triggers, like you don't know how to react, what is the feeling that you avoid to feel? So it's either we want to feel something or we want to avoid to feel something. So really reflect on those two things right now, because that's how our life is navigated. So it's navigated by avoiding pain and going towards pleasure. And happiness cannot be found in both of them. It can only be found in understanding that this is how life goes. So it's very important to become aware what are the sensations that I'm looking for when I'm going towards people, and what are the sensations that I don't want to feel. And I think now will be a good time to do some sharing. So I will put you to the breakout rooms. So we'll be with another person, and I would like you to share just the experience of this last, whatever, 30 minutes. But mainly, first question is like, what am I looking for? Like, what are the feelings that I want to feel when I'm going towards people, and what are the feelings that I want to avoid, right? To just get awareness, how we navigate. So it will be short